tossers have thrown it out the door with their behaviour this week. They should be ashamed of themselves. They should absolutely look at themselves in the mirror and wonder what the have they been doing. They were hissing at us and calling us cheats in the Lord's long room, and they have the gall to say, talk to us about the spirit of cricket. Absolute bullshit.
There's a big appeal to hit him on the pad. He's out. Lions gone. New South Wales are 9 down onto Sydney Road, and it's hit a car. Oh, I think it's hit a car. What a way to bring up your 50.
All you want is to leave it all behind. Now there is a simple remedy to stay fit for all eternity.
Yeah, really special. I had my good mate Nathan Ellis that I spent a lot of time with over the last 5 years probably. So he had some really nice words for me, and I was obviously stoked to get the hat and stoked to have my parents over here. Obviously it's a bit of a messed up travel getting to the West Indies, but they've sacrificed a lot my whole life, and this trip's only just another one. So super grateful that they got to experience that as well.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Cricket Unfiltered podcast. That was the debutant hero, Mitch Owen, speaking after a play of the match performance in his first outing for the Aussies, scoring a 50 on debut and taking a wicket. So he was a very happy man there, and great to see him in the green and gold. Menas, welcome back to the show. Joining me is Damien Watson. Damien, how are you?
I'm very good, thanks, Meadows. You predicted Mitch Owen's success, and you were on the money in the end, weren't you?
Yeah, absolutely. I was thinking back. Yeah, I don't like to pat myself on the back too much, but a couple of years ago, when I when I saw him in the Shield, and I said on this show that I thought he had a bit about him. He was a very good player. He made a little cameo against the Blues, and great to see him doing well. And yeah, it was also a treat having live international cricket on a Monday morning. You don't often have the Australian team playing in that time zone, sort of the normal where you get a lot of American sport. So Monday morning is usually, Damien, it's very serious for me, head down, getting back into work. But at 10 a.m., Australia was playing the West Indies in a T20. I was thrilled.
Monday morning cricket. It's a bit like the NFL. That's always on a Monday morning
Australian
time, isn't it? Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. And I watched a bit of it as well. And I thought the Windies were pretty competitive and really enjoyed the performance as well. I've got to give credit to some of the West Indian players, particularly Roston Chase. That was a very good innings. Benners, 60 off 32 deliveries, 2 sixes underpinning that knock. I thought he was absolutely brilliant to watch. But you got to give credit to Mitch Owen, and good to see him translate that form into Australian colours as well, particularly as the pressure was on early. Jake Fraser-McGurk went early, of course, and I guess there's question marks about his form going forward. And well done to Cam Green. He's been under the gunning a little bit amongst some of the pundits out there, but he scored a timely half-century as well, Menace.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Cameron Green, 51 of 26 deliveries. Mitch Owen, 50 of 27. And the star with the ball was Ben Dwarshuis, 4 for 36. And the West Indies actually probably should have won this game. They were 4 for 183 with 2 overs left in their innings. And you would say par when you've got wickets in hand with 2 overs left. You're looking at about 20 off the last 2 overs. Then that would have left the West Indies around 200 plus, and that would have been very difficult for the Aussies. But the Australians bounced back with Dwarshuis taking 3 wickets in an over, and then Ellis restricting the runs in the last over. And the West Indies only scored 6 runs in their last 2 overs and lost 5 wickets. So that really set the West Indies back, and Australia finished 7 for 190 with 7 balls left. And it was a pretty convincing win for Australia, but they did lose a few wickets in the end. And if one catch off Sean Abbott had been held late by one of the West Indies outfielders, that would have probably opened the door for them to maybe steal a win. So it wasn't quite as convincing as maybe it looks on the scorecard. Could have gone either way a couple of times. I mean, a couple of points, I guess, a couple of things leading into the game I wanted to bring up. Firstly, Matt Short came home with a minor side strain, so you might be wondering why he didn't play. And in the end, Jake Fraser-McGurk opened the batting. And Damien, I was stunned at this. why didn't Mitch Owen open the batting? He opens for the Hurricanes. He opens for the Washington Freedom, my Washington Freedom in the MLC. And then he goes, and then Jake Fraser McGurk, for some reason, gets another opportunity, 2 off 7. He looked terrible. And poor stuff from McGurk. And I would have opened with Mitch Owen there. But Damien, what I'm getting frustrated with is I reckon if you're like a top order player in Australia doing pretty well at domestic level and you're looking at Fraser McGurk getting all these opportunities, it'd be very frustrating.
Yes, it would. I think because of his reputation that he's built upon himself and that great run he had just under a couple of years ago, Menners, maybe that carries him a little bit because we know what he's capable of. He just hasn't shown it of late. But it's funny you mentioned that because I was sitting next to Adam Crosswaite at the time when Marsh and Fraser McGurk were coming out to bat. And he's like, what the hell's going on here with the selection there of the 2 openers? So, yeah, I don't think you were the only one.
Yeah, so frustrated with seeing McGurk open, and I like Fraser McGurk a lot. Maybe he has a future, but he has to go back to the level below franchise T20 cricket and prove that he can do it. His success was so fleeting in the IPL, that one season everybody harps on about. You can't hang your hat on that for Australian selection anymore. That was one piece of news. The other piece of news is in the lead up to the game, Mitch Marsh has officially said he's not an all-rounder anymore. He's not going to be bowling in any format at the moment, and he has no plans to start bowling again. Now, Damien, I don't know if you saw the press conference, but Mitch Marsh, and this happened during the summer when Mitch Marsh was playing in the first 3 tests against India and said he could bowl but hardly bowled and didn't look like he could bowl when he was bowling. He's so secretive about his bowling, and even the Cricket Australia journalist asking the questions had to kind of prize a sort of half answer out of him about his bowling. But Damien, he's not going to be bowling in the foreseeable future in any format. I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do as a batter. But as I said, just very perplexed at the way it was done, very secretively.
Yeah, is that a tactical thing? It shouldn't be a tactical thing, though, would it? I don't know whether it's an individual thing on Mitch Marsh's part. I just don't know the reason why he would be secret.
Neither do I. Yeah, I mean, it seemed like during the summer it was Cummins and all the boys trying to keep their mate in the side by saying he could still bowl when he couldn't. But now I don't think it is. And maybe I guess they're just a bit quiet about it because maybe they knew this a while ago and they've just been playing us all. Anyway,
I don't think it's a massive concern, though, to be honest with you. I mean,
well, it is for me. It is for me.
Yeah.
No, but you're right. Anyway, so the Bison is a specialist batter now. So he has to play in the top of the order and he has to make runs. So I don't mind him opening. But yeah, big news. The Bisons hung up the bowling boots. Yeah, as I said, so Australia finished 7 for 190, chasing that down. Green and Mitch Owen, the 2 big contributors with the bat. Mitch Marsh also 24 of 17 at the top. And Australia hit a whopping 17 sixes in their innings. So it was actually very entertaining to watch. The only bugbear I have is Cameron Green gets to 50 and then the next ball plays a terrible shot, Damien. Hits one straight up in the air. And you know what I was thinking? When you're in a chase and there's nothing on the line, like it's not a competition where you're going to get net run rate by winning quicker than if you were to finish later in the inning. So there's no incentive to finish it quickly. Cameron Green should have been there. I want to be here at the end when we hit the winning run. So, once you get 50, take a breath, knock the ball into the outfield, get a single, and then start again a little bit. So I thought it was quite immature because, he should have been there at the end. And as I said, Australia crumbled a bit and could have coughed that game up. So, yeah, I didn't like that.
Oh, well, look, you're right. It was a silly shot, but these things happen at the end of the day. Yeah, it's one of those things, though, with T20 cricket. I don't think players have that mindset, do they, of necessarily being there at the end. They go for broke and they take a risk, and if they get out, they get out. I don't know if that's necessarily the mindset in the T20 format.
No, you're 100% right. But I think you need to be a bit ruthless when you're in a situation of you've got to chase. You've got a team by the scruff of the neck. You're a batter who's in form as well. Green's a senior player. Mitch Owen on debut. You make sure you're there at the end. But anyway, it was a small thing. just wanted to get that out there.
Can
Madman
I
as
can I
well.
provide not a rant, but a
Yes,
point as well of
go.
contention?
Of course.
Not much of a crowd there. I know there was more than what we saw in the test matches and everything, but there was still a lot of empty seats, Menners. So I do have a lot of concerns about West Indian cricket, whether the public really care about it anymore, even in the T20 format. I know with internationals, there's probably, unless it's a World Cup, there's not as much prestige as maybe the domestic competitions, but still, I would have thought there would have been more of a crowd there.
Yeah, I would have too. Now, tomorrow, so we're recording this Tuesday night Australian time. Wednesday morning Australian time is the second T20 international in Jamaica, and that is Dre Russ's last international game for the West Indies. So maybe they get a bit of a crowd there, Damien, to send Andre Russell off because, you're playing 2 games in the one venue. Maybe more people are going to come to the second game. So, the second game starts tomorrow. Andre Russell playing his last game for the West Indies. And I had a look at his record and, it did make me think his best work has been at franchise level. He's had some fleeting performances for the West Indies. He cited the 2016 World T20 semi-final against against India as his most treasured international performance, where he came in a tough chase and got them through with Lendl Simmons. But I don't think we've seen the best of him at international level. And I guess, now he's getting pretty old, but he can still play franchise cricket for a fair bit of time. So, Damien, what did you think? So you've been commentating on the Aussie stuff for the last couple of days. What's it been like? Damien, hello? Damien?
I think I've got you back now, Menners. There was a bit of a bit of silence there. I'll talk about the commentary at the moment, just on Andre Russell as well. Obviously, spent a bit of time at your Sydney Thunder, Menners. When I think of probably, he had a bit of a sporadic impact on international cricket, didn't he? When I think of a highlight for him at international level, probably when there was that, I think there was I can't remember if it was a one day, I think it was a one delivery chased out 263 with 1 wicket to spare under a lot of pressure. That's one innings that comes to my mind when it comes to Andre Russell representing the West Indies.
He didn't do much for the West Indies, that's for sure. All right, so that series, 5 matches and Australia up 1-0. So, Damien, tell me, how's the Australia A commentary been this week? Big performances from Jake Weatherald with 183, Curtis Patterson 59, but then Jason Sanger with a century. So some good stuff from the Aussie A top order. Can you hear me, Damien? Can you hear me now?
Got you now, Menners?
Can you hear me?
I can't quite. I can now.
Should we just turn our cameras off?
Yep. What's going on? Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I've got you now.
All right. So, I'll just start that again. All right. So the West Indies series, Australia up 1-0. Second match is being played on Wednesday morning. So we'll see how that goes. Now, Damien's been commentating on the Australia A v Sri Lanka A second 4-day match, and big performances from top order players. Jake Weatherald with 183, Curtis Patterson 59, and then Jason Sanger unbeaten century this afternoon. So good, promising stuff there, Damien. What have you seen?
Yeah, certainly. It was an interesting one because it was a flat wicket. There wasn't much in the wicket for the bowlers, it must be said. So I think that's one thing that you need to put as a caveat on some of those performances, but really impressed with the performance of Jake Weatherald. From the moment he came to the crease, Menners, at the start of the innings, he was very, very determined, bouncing around, very energetic, and really liked the way he ran between the wickets as well and showed a lot of intent with his stroke play. But he wasn't extravagant either. He waited for the right moments. It was a fantastic knock of 183. Probably deserved a double century, to be honest. He chopped on late in the day to be dismissed for just above 180 in the end. But I think he suddenly puts himself well and truly in the frame, in the conversation as an opening batsman contender for the Australia lineup if he can also complement his current form and his form from last season as well, with continued good form in the Sheffield Shield at the start of next season, Menners. If he can batten down the hatches and make a couple of big scores for Tasmania, he is well and truly in the frame because he's that attacking style of player. He's got a bit of experience under his belt. He's relatively mature. He's got a new lease on life. I think he's a real chance if he can continue on his good form. I don't know about
And
you.
leading run scorer in the Sheffield Shield's
Correct.
a big tick for his CV. I know the selectors would love to reward that kind of consistency. I guess the other thing as well is he's a little bit in the David Warner mold. Left-handed, punchy, aggressive, a good foil for Usman Khawaja. So yeah, big performance from him. Jason Sanger as well. Good stuff. The other interesting thing was that Nathan McSweeney opened the batting. So Nathan McSweeney, very close to the test side. Maybe the selectors are looking at him as an option for replacing Sam Constas and said to the Aussie A, can you please make him open? But, maybe McSweeney could be lining up at the Gabba.
Potentially, although he was dismissed by Perez, Nishan Perez. Was a nice, well-flighted ball. I think there were a few issues with his technique, though, against the spinner Menners, just with the way his stance was, and he was able to get bowled through the gate. So he only made 12 in the end.
Yeah.
Missed opportunity for McSweeney.
Interesting. All right. So, yeah, as you say, not a very exciting game there. Sri Lanka batted pretty well in their first innings, and then Australia A batting well in their second innings. So we'll probably a draw there. But, I was thinking poor Sam Constas, he would have loved to have played up there. And looking at what he had to endure in the West Indies, he would have loved to have played on those flatties against Sri Lanka A instead of, the pink ball, the Duke pink ball under lights.
Exactly right. But, yeah, it was quite flat, quite warm. It's always 31, 32 degrees up there in Darwin each day. But, yeah, impressed with, obviously, Jason Sanger as well with his leadership capabilities. He takes a little while to get settled in his innings, but he managed to score 100 and well done to him. Curtis Patterson, who you interviewed the other week, Menners, he was looking good too, I've got to say, but he played a very loose shot where he didn't move his feet, reached for the ball outside the off stump and hit it straight down the throat of the point fieldsman, and he was dismissed for 59. If it wasn't for that loose shot, he looked poised to make a century himself too, I've got to say.
Yeah, he has had that habit sometimes of getting out in that sort of range, sort of 50 to 100, not making the big scores. He went through a period where that was a little bit of a trouble for Patterson getting to three figures. Yeah, so I said Constas really would have wanted to have been in those conditions. And Ricky Ponting was quoted, and I haven't been able to find the original source, but saying that Constas is still a chance to open in the Ashes. And I do think if Constas can get back to the Shield and knock out some runs and score some hundreds, they will probably stick with him. I think if Constas can go out there and make a couple of hundreds in the Shield, they'll probably back themselves, knowing the selectors, because he did look a different player when we saw him in better conditions. And yeah, I think it was the conditions just made Constas and all the Australian players look so bad. But yeah, Jake Weatherald, that 183 that's a huge statement, because it's not just 100. He made it a big one.
Correct. Exactly right. And he went on with it and didn't lose his focus at all. So that's the thing. And we've seen that with him with the Shield as well, Menners. Often you look at the back end of his Shield season, I think he made about 140 odd against New South Wales and 155 against Victoria towards the back end of the season for Tasmania. He does have an uncanny knack of turning hundreds into big hundreds.
Yeah. All right. So you're there tomorrow for day 4. So we'll see how that goes. Last thing, we'll take a break and then we'll come back and go through an interesting article by Dan Brettig. But just a reminder, we've got some great merchandise now for Cricket Unfiltered. I've got a t-shirt on. So if you head to the episode notes, there's the link for that. And thank you to Exactamundo, who's a company owned by a great fan of the show, and they do a lot of video animation design and content production. So they're supporting us. And if you need any of that, head to their link in the episode notes. All right, we'll take a quick break, then we'll be back with more. You're listening to the Cricket Unfiltered podcast. I'm Menners and I'm with Damien Watson. And Damien, not a lot of cricket news this week, but then Dan Brettig just dropped this big article in The Age and it had some big talking points. So the first one was that there is a proposal by the ICC to relaunch the men's 2020 Champions League as soon as September next year. So if you remember, that tournament was around from 2008 to 2014, and they want to bring it back next year. And that's basically the best T20 franchises from all around the world. And I actually I would like to see it now. I've sort of flip-flopped on this, Damien, but I think now with the way T20 cricket is developed, I'd love to see it.
I'm in the same camp as you, actually. And I'm not saying that just to agree with you, Menners. I think it did flop for a little while, but now that we've seen so many domestic tournaments pop up, it's sort of a bit like the UEFA, and I think they have their mind to turning it into a bit of like a UEFA Champions League tournament. You get the best of each region that plays T20 cricket, and they go for the ultimate championship. I think it would add an extra dimension to T20 cricket. So if it can be marketed very well, it could be like a world T20 championship amongst the domestic camps and amongst all the franchises. I think it'll be interesting if the BBL gets privatised, how that will go as well. And how the BBL teams will shape up too. Because I suppose the one thing you've got to take into consideration with this, if the IPL's that far in front as a T20 product, well, the best team from the IPL is going to win all day, aren't they? That's the only issue I have.
Well, yes. Well, that is one issue. But I actually think that the way T20 cricket is, that it would be a bit closer than you think. I don't think the IPL teams would run away with it at all because we've seen it before. I do think these teams are closer than you think. And we've seen in the World T20s, smaller nations win all the time. So I think it would be interesting, though, because so many players play in different teams, that what would happen be when a player, is available for two different franchises, who do you decide which franchise they play for?
Yeah, that's the other thing too. And that's where I think the IPL would have the advantage, isn't it? Because often that's where the money is with the individual player.
But still, look, great concept. I'd love to see them have a crack at it, I would just like to see the Big Bash franchises competing against some of the other best franchises in the world. I think that'd be fun. I enjoyed that Guyana tournament recently where the Hurricanes were, so I'd love to see it. Another thing by Dan Brettig was that Test cricket's future is going to be decided by the end of the year, and they're looking at reshaping the calendar from 2027, and that could be when they possibly split the Test cricket into two divisions. And they're also saying that you're not a fan of two divisions, and they're also saying there's a distinct possibility that the number of Test playing countries may be capped, and they're kind of capped already. There's not that many, but so we're going to get answers soon as to how that looks like, and I do predict there'll kind of be a tier 1 and tier 2 Test cricket, or there's just a one-tier Test cricket of about 6 or 8 nations, and there's no tier 2. But you're not a fan, Damien?
No, I'd like to see, for the betterment of the game, a situation where some of the top echelon teams play some of the minnows. I think if you're going to get better as a cricketing nation, sometimes you've got to play against the best, and you learn a bit from what is provided against you. I guess it's one of those things where there's probably not a lot of money generated, but I think for the betterment of actually growing the game and expanding the game, if you really want Test cricket to succeed and not die in the water, you've got to learn to expand so that we don't have a situation where there's a dilution of nations and it's down to 3, because I think Test cricket will eventually plateau. If that's the case. You've got to try and strengthen some of the other cricketing nations, in my opinion.
Well, that's why they need some kind of Test cricket fund to pay smaller nations to keep their players. I mean, we're seeing it play out with the West Indies. You know, they get back a number of players for their T20 side that just aren't available for Test cricket because they're just not getting paid enough. So, but yeah, we're going to get answers. This Dan Bredding is reporting we'll get answers soon. The other good news is he's said that a funding model for the Afghanistan women's cricket team, the refugee Afghanistan women's cricket team, has been approved, with the players set to be supported to the tune of about $1 million per year, with a view for them trying to qualify for global events. So that is overdue, but very good. And Damien, not sure about this one. England has been confirmed as the host venue for the World Test Championship finals for 2027, 2029, and 2031. Do you think England should continue to host it?
I think in the short term, yes. In the long term, no, Menners. I think it's probably going to develop in the same way that the World Cup has, but in a different format, in the sense that with a World Cup, when it comes around, you know, I know England used to host, I think they hosted the first 3, didn't they? And then in 87, it went to the subcontinent, but it sort of shared around every 4 years. I think if you're the number 1 ranked nation coming into the World Test Championship final, that should be your reward, that you host the final. I think that's the most fair and equitable way to handle it.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. If you're the top of the table, you host the final.
I think so.
I mean, that's a good system, but I guess they want to try and keep it in prestigious venues. But yeah, I'm not sure I like this at being monopolized by the English. I mean, they've had 3, they're going to have 3 more. The only thing I will say is, just from a practical point of view, England is very central to a lot of the world, so a lot of people can travel
Australia.
there. Well, exactly. It's not good for us, but it's good for pretty much everybody else. But anyway, yeah, I think I like your motto of the top of the table team getting to host it. That's a really good idea, and it rewards you for finishing at top of the table. All right, and then just I was reading. So I was reading another.
I think that's the incentive you want.
Yeah, I was reading another article by Dan Breddick about the English, and apparently they're trying to be a little bit more aggressive, and they're sledging India because India were sledging them, and there's been talk that they need to toughen up when they play against the Aussies. But the thing is, this Aussie team doesn't really sledge much, so it could be the English sledging us for a change. I mean, the roles could be completely reversed this summer. Like, England come here as the bad guys, they'll be sledging us, they'll be trying to play aggressive cricket, and we'll just be, have Usman Khawaja leaving balls outside the off stump in his own world, Pat Cummins smiling at them. I mean, Pat Cummins will bowl bouncers and try and knock your head off, but he'll do it with a smile on his face. Like, it's very different.
Yeah, but I don't care as long as you get the results. I'm not one of those people that is very machoistic and says that you have to be aggressive. Other people do, and that's fine. But I don't think you have to be outwardly aggressive to get results, Metters. I think that's a very old school mentality. Others might have a different view, though.
No, I agree. I totally agree. I mean, we're seeing there's plenty of different ways to do it, and different players need different things to get themselves up. But yeah, it's just interesting that England are trying to sort of, I mean, they're so focused on the Ashes that, yeah, I think we're in for a real exciting summer, because both teams have their imperfections. England fancy their chances against us, and that's half the battle. Most of the time England comes here with little belief and little spirit, which is mostly their nature. But I think then this team is going to be a little bit harder to set back, unless it's another, like, unless England are down 2-0 like they are in most Ashes before they realise it, because it's a lot harder to come back away than, at home.
Yeah, that's true. But I hope it's going to be a tight series, Manners, to be honest with you. I know you probably disagree. You just want Australia to romp them in.
Okay, well, this is good because this leads me into can't let it go. That little bit of cricket news you just can't let go. So, Kevin Peterson, I'll start because it sort of follows on from what you said. Kevin Peterson tweeted out today, or yesterday, sorry, that the greatest ever test series to be played started today, 20 years ago. The Ashes 2005 cannot and won't be beaten by another test series ever. And so, you know what my thought was with when I read that tweet, Damien?
Self-indulgence.
My thought was, well, that, but my thought was, I'd forgotten what a wanker Kevin Peterson was. It's
I
so
don't
full of
mind
him.
him. He's a character.
I like him, but he's so full of himself to say that is the best series ever and will never be beaten. And obviously, he played a big part in it. I just thought I'd forgotten, how he used to wind up the Aussies so much. But there, that's my can't let it go on.
I was just going to say, do you remember when Kevin Peterson was on the Graham Norton show and he happened to be on the same night as Taylor Swift? So we're on together on the couch and he was talking about, his career and all that sort of stuff. And Taylor Swift was sort of doing these eye rolls and stuff going, I don't know what this bloke's on about.
That's very funny. I'm going to go and have to find that footage. And then I don't even think, like, 2005 is not my favorite test series. I enjoyed the 13-14 Ashes more, where Mitch Johnson destroyed England and we beat them 5-0. So
that's not the greatest series ever, though. But
what are you talking? No, it wasn't. But I mean, from an Australian point of view, you don't get better than that. I mean, Mitch Johnson absolutely destroying the Poms. I mean, it was fantastic. I could much rather sit through that again than 2005. So what I'm saying is about the upcoming Ashes. It could go, if we get a close series, I won't be disappointed. But also, if Australia wins 5-0, I'll be equally as happy. I'll probably be happier. I will be happier. What's your can't let it go? Do you have one?
I do. Mackenzie Harvey is signed with the Adelaide Strikers, moving from the Melbourne Renegades. I remember watching him play in the under-19s for Australia Menas and was very impressed with his stroke play. So it'll give him a bit of a lease on life and it'll be interesting to see how he goes at the Strikers. He was certainly on the radar amongst a lot of BBL clubs. So, yeah, we've seen a lot of Victorians go over there and succeed. So I wonder how Mackenzie Harvey will go and whether he's going to relish a bit more responsibility because I think he did play with South Australia, didn't he, in the one-day format, part of that one-day cup winning side. So we'll see how he fares.
Yeah, that's a good move for him. Maybe it'll just give him a new lease on life. We've seen that so often with players that move. Well, Damien, absolutely. Yeah, it's the place to be right now. Look at Jason Sanger. Exactly. All right, Damien. Well, good to catch up. Thanks for tuning into the Cricket Unfiltered podcast, everyone. We're in a little bit, I wouldn't say in a lull, but we're just on the precipice of so much cricket. We've got this series in the West Indies, but then got a lot of white ball cricket up against the South Africans. Australia goes to New Zealand. So much cricket to come. So, Damien, the listeners can find you on Twitter at Damo_Watts, and you'll be on the Cricket Australia stream tomorrow.
Yes, to be the last day of the 4-day matches, last of the second, the second of 2 4-day matches, up in Darwin. So it'll probably peter out to a draw, but tune in anyway. It'll be a lot of fun to be had.
Excellent. Well, thanks everybody for tuning into the Cricket Unfiltered podcast, and we'll be back soon.